Acapulco, where he's from, was such a huge travel and tourist industry, especially in the 70s and 80s when he was growing up.
And going loco.
And going loco.
Meet Palle Bo, a digital nomad from Denmark on an epic journey around the world. At the age of 50, he made a bold decision. He sold everything, his house, his car, his furniture, and set out with a quest to visit every single country in the world, documenting everything along the way. This is the Radio Vagabond podcast.
I found a wonderful Airbnb apartment in the western part of Toronto in a nice residential area, a part of the city called Roncesvalles. It's a very green area close to High Park with typical Canadian houses and squirrels everywhere. It's only about a half hour on the tram, or as they call it, the streetcar, to downtown Toronto. My apartment is the basement of the house. It's got a kitchen, a nice bathroom, and everything I need. I started by booking 2 weeks, but then I decided to extend it 2 more weeks because I just like the area and the city. But some of the best part about living here was that the hosts were living right upstairs. Hannah and Paco and their 2 wonderful kids. We became very good friends and had dinner one night. Both Paco and Hannah are full-time musicians. Paco plays every kind of instrument, but primarily bass, and I went to 2 concerts with him on the same night where he played with different bands. Hannah Burgé, is a singer and sounds like this on her debut album, Green River Seasons.
Pulse quickens, my heart beats, I like those before me move. I wanna be in the ocean, surrounded by great love. Oh, 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 oh.
What we're hearing now is, in fact, my Airbnb host. Hannah, I just came upstairs. You live in the house above me where I live. And first of all, thank you so much for hosting me.
Oh, thank you for coming.
This is a great neighborhood.
Isn't it the best?
Yeah.
I know, I'm absolutely biased.
Yeah. I went walking in High Park yesterday, saw all the cherry blossom trees, and yeah. Am I being a little bit obnoxious when I say that? Well, I've been to Japan, so that's nothing.
Well, it's very enviable. I would love to be in Japan during cherry blossom season.
No, what we're hearing now is you singing of your first album. Can you tell me a little bit about this song and how it came about?
Sure. The song is called Art of Living. It's a composition of mine, and it's really influenced by the ocean and Cuban folkloric music. So I took a really well-known folkloric chant, and then I just changed the harmony and put some jazz-style chords on it, and we just made it this really beautiful, open-sounding thing that really reminded me of crashing waves and you know, the expanse of the ocean. Yeah.
You have a wonderful voice. Would you characterize yourself as solely a jazz singer?
No, but thank you. I love jazz songs. All the great artists, they always say there's good and the music's either good or it's bad, and I love all kinds of things. I grew up singing choral music, church music, and I was in choirs, and even my first touring groups were in choirs. So I've done lots of singing in lots of different ways and shapes, and I turn my attention to this style in these songs because I find a voice there, you know, find a road.
And the album is produced by your husband, who's also a musician. I see him carrying all kinds of instruments, but he's first of all he's a bass player.
He is.
Is it called bassist?
He is a bassist, yeah.
Okay,
He
okay.
plays acoustic bass, the big one, and electric bass, you know, the smaller one.
Yeah.
But he also has made a great career playing electric acoustic, which is you know, it's in the shape of an acoustic bass, but it doesn't have the full wood body, so it's electric. So that makes it a lot easier for touring.
Oh
Yeah, you can put it in a golf travel case and call it carry on.
Yeah. And so both of you are full-time musicians, and you have children as well. How old are they? 5 and...
My son Etienne is 8 years old,
Yeah.
and my daughter Elsa is 3.
Oh, 3.
Yeah, 3. So yes, we are. It's
How do you combine that?
when I figure it out, I'll let you know. But for now, we do a lot of music and we do a lot of teaching, and we do Airbnb. It's been a good fit for our lifestyle, and we raise our family in music and in this beautiful neighborhood of Roncesvalles. So we're blessed, you know.
Yeah. Let's have a listen to a bit of another song.
Sure. Serenity is a song I wrote. It's just a really simple ballad, and I grew up about an hour north of Toronto. My grandparents had property there, 70 acres of forest, and I was completely able to just go and be alone from a very young age, you know, come home at dinner, come home when the light changes, right? So there were streams and you know, a little creek, and my grandfather had painted you know, like with spray paint on the trees to make little paths, so, you know, we could find our way through, because it was a lot, although I still got lost a bunch of times. But Serenity felt like, for me, you know, when you're alone in a forest and it's winter and there's snow on the ground and you have your snowsuit on and you just lay in the snow and you look up and it's so quiet.
Yeah.
That's what this song was like for me, just to be quiet in the middle of a forest and to think about my life and the people in it and just be really thankful.
Wind through the trees, rain on the leaves, heartbeat and senses remind, joy in my heart and you on my mind, the world and its forces align. Carry me home. I'm never alone.
So you grew up not in Toronto, but at what age did you move here? And that must have been different.
Oh, it was so different. I grew up in a very homogenous town called Cambridge, about an hour west of Toronto, although the family was an hour north of Toronto. And I moved here when I was 18 years old, 17. And
To the big city.
To the big city all by myself. And yeah, I just started doing music in university in a music program, playing piano and singing, and it was such an enormous eye-opening. I mean, I didn't even hear people speaking any other language other than English when I was in my town. So I came to Toronto, and I remember one of the first assignments was to listen to the radio and identify the language and see what you could find. just listening to the shape. And I totally failed. I failed it because I had no idea. I couldn't tell the difference between French and Spanish at the time. Yeah, that's shameful.
You know the difference now. Especially the Spanish part, because
that's right.
of course your husband is Mexican, and I guess that your children is bilingual.
Yeah, our children understand Spanish. They're definitely doing the first generation thing of hearing Spanish and responding in English. But we have a dedicated effort for them to learn to speak Spanish. And my daughter is fluent in French already at school. Yeah, she goes to a beautiful school, and a lot of the women are Congolese, and she just gets wonderful education at that school, and that's wonderful. She can already respond and speak and think in French. And then at my son's school, he goes downtown Toronto, and he's learning Mandarin and French in school.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he can write the characters in Mandarin, and it's wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So language is a big deal to me and to the family, because I think we were both raised with so little knowledge of what was around us in terms of language. Although Paco probably knew a lot more than I did. Yeah, because Acapulco, where he's from, was such a huge travel and tourist industry, especially in the 70s and 80s when he was growing up there. Yeah.
And going local.
And going local.
De repente, como el niño que se vuelve adolescente, como quien se vuelve loco y confunde su pasado y su presente, como si fuera brujería, tu alegría me llenó completamente. Qué milagro fue, vida mía, qué manera tienes de amar. De repente me moría por seguirte en la corriente, por la noche, por el día, te veía en cada rostro de la gente, vida mía. De repente caminaste los caminos de mi mente, me quitaste las arrugas a mi frente y sembraste tu sonrisa en mi dolor. Vida mía, tu locura me inundó violentamente, tu demencia me llegó tan de repente que hiciste que creyera en el amor.
You are listening to the Radio Vagabond podcast. If you like what you hear, please leave a review in iTunes. If you're listening on an iPhone, you can actually do it right there within your podcast app. And now, back to the show.
Tell me a little bit about the project that your husband is involved in right now, because that is so exciting.
I know, it's really cool. It's called the New Canadian Global Music Orchestra, so NCGMO. And this is really the brainchild of the Royal Conservatory of Music, which is our National Music Institute, the director Mervan Mehta. So Mervan considered bringing in musicians that lived in Canada, that were Canadian, had taken citizenship or residency here, that were from around the globe. So I believe that more than 120 musicians applied to be, auditioned for this orchestra, and they selected 12 musicians, and then one Indigenous musician from Canada, Métis. So these 12 musicians, along with artistic director David Buckbinder, have been in residence at Kerner Hall, which is a beautiful concert hall in Toronto. And they are creating new music to present at their debut concert on June 2nd. Yeah, it's really incredible. I mean, when you think about, somebody playing, an oud, or...
I have no idea what that is.
Well, I'm not familiar myself with every single one of every of all of the orchestra instruments, because many of the instrumentalists play 5 or 6 different instruments. So I know that there are bamboo flutes from a great Chinese Canadian musician, and then there's a sitar player who's wonderful, Anwar, and all of these great musicians come with their own expertise and knowledge of folkloric or home traditions, as well as outward facing. People like my husband Paco or Luis Dennis, who's a sax player, they are great jazz players, and they play Latin jazz. They go on tour with all these other great artists, and now they're selected to kind of represent their home countries in this new music format. Yeah, so it's so exciting. It's so amazing, to have Paco come home at night and we talk over dinner about all the cool stuff that the orchestra is working on and challenges that they're facing in writing together. Because some people read music and some people learn it orally. So you have to kind of combine those learning styles. And some people write a lot of music, and some people are experts at playing what other people have already written. So there's a lot of dynamics at play. It's so exciting. But I think just fundamentally, the vision of creating an orchestra that is comprised of 12 musicians from across the globe that now reside in Canada, that's amazing.
Pulse quickens, my heart beats. I like those before me move. I wanna be in the ocean, surrounded by great love. Oh, 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 oh.
At the moment, you're working on your next album. I know that it took you 5 years to do the first one. So
Yes, it took 5 years to do the first one. I think my son was 9 months when we went into the studio with a band. And then, it's so expensive to make albums, and 2 musicians, that was a challenge for us.
especially the producer, he was so expensive.
He was so expensive. Had to keep paying him and
Feeding
him. Yeah, it took a long time, but it was really there was huge momentum at the beginning and huge momentum at the end, and in between that, I got a master's degree. My husband was touring with a bunch of other artists, and then I became pregnant with my daughter, and we just we needed to finish that album before she was born. And we did.
It was a little bit like my book. It took me 4 years to write, and there was a lot of momentum at the beginning and at the end.
Yeah.
But then there were periods, a month and month, where I didn't write anything. So yeah.
That's just the way it is, right?
So when's the new one's going to come out? 2020?
No, we are definitely hoping for 2018.
How's it going to be different?
It's a great question. I think it'll be different because, thematically a little bit different. The first album, it was a debut, it was an introducing Hannah Burgé type of album, so we were sure to put on some classic jazz songs and to put our own arrangements on them, to have a song in Spanish, so that would really kind of reflect all the things that all the different kinds of music I had been a part of up until that time. This album is really focused on Canadian songs because we're in our 150th year.
Since the Constitution.
Yes. So officially 150, though unofficially, much longer for people who lived here before everyone emigrated, for our indigenous populations. But we're going to be doing songs by largely Canadian women. I'm really been influenced by Buffy Sainte-Marie, by Joni Mitchell, Jan Arden. So we have some wonderful women songwriters, and I really do want to to honor those women in the next album and contribute a few more of my own songs that I've been working on. And they're coming out in a little more relaxed style. I think in the first album you have something to prove, so you make everything really hard. Yeah. And in the second album, there's less. So I'm really taking joy in writing these new songs and in singing songs by these great women composers, and that's where we're going. Yeah. So
keep an eye out.
Thank you.
Or an ear.
An ear out. So
Mississippi, in the middle of a dry spell. Jimmy Rogers, Victrola up high. Mama's dancing with the baby on her shoulder. The sun is setting like molasses in the sky. The boy could sing, knew how to move everything. Always wanting more. He leave you longing for. Like velvet in that little boy's smile. Like velvet in that slow southern style. A new religion that'll bring you to your knees. Like velvet, if you please. Every word of every song that he sang was for you. In a flash, he was gone. It happened so soon. What could you do?
This episode is brought to you in part by Hotels25.com. It's a website that helps you find the best prices on hotels, hostels, and guest houses around the world. It searches a lot of different hotel search sites in one simple search. Hotels25.com. It's best price guaranteed.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe in iTunes or the podcast app on your smartphone. You can see pictures, watch videos, and read much more on theradiovagabond.com. Palle can be reached for interviews and public speaking gigs on mail at theradiovagabond.com.
Like velvet in that little boy's smile. Like velvet in that slow southern style. A new religion that'll bring you to your knees. Like velvet, if you please. Like velvet in that little boy's smile. Like velvet in that slow southern style. A new religion that'll bring you to
On theradiovagabond.com, there will be a link to Hannah's website where you can buy the album, and to my Airbnb apartment that comes with my highest recommendations.
if you please.
A lot more will come here from Toronto, so make sure that you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you please. In the next episode, we go to baseball, and then you can join me on a visit to another radio show, the legendary Humble and Fred morning show that can be heard all over the American continent. My name is Palle Bo. See ya.